Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Today was a big day for the families of 4 Indigenous women, their supporters, and their communities in Manitoba. Jeremy Skibicki was found guilty of first-degree murder in the killings of Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and a yet-to-be-identified woman given the name Buffalo Woman. Skibicki's defense team was claiming NCR, not criminally responsible, on an account of mental disorder in the judge-alone trial that lasted 6 weeks. T.R. Wheatley brings us up to date.
Earlier inside, Chief Justice Glenn Joyal told the packed courtroom that Jeremy Skibicki's defense team did not prove that he was mentally ill during the time of the killings. Instead, he sided with the Crown, saying they proved beyond a reasonable doubt that he was intentional and racially motivated. Family members, including the sister of Mercedes Myron, celebrated outside the court with traditional songs.
I'm crowded with emotions. I'm extremely happy. A big weight has been lifted off my shoulders and justice was served today. Rebecca
Contois' family stood together supporting her older brother as he spoke to the media.
A little anxiety because I just, hearing all that again, reliving it each time we were here. But ultimately, I believe that he made the right decision.
In his oral statement, Joyal said, while there was some differences in how Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and Buffalo Woman were killed, they all followed a pattern. All 4 were vulnerable Indigenous women. All 4 were strangled. All 4 were put in his bathtub. In Joyal's words, he filled bathtub prior to the death of all 4 women. He said this interrogation video was crucial in helping determine his findings. Joyal also talked about the testimony from 2 psychiatrists with very different opinions. He said he did not believe the defense's psychiatrist who said Skibicki was living with schizophrenia. Instead, he believed the Crown's witness who said Skibicki fabricated it all, including hearing voices from God that compelled him to kill the women. A huge round dance also took place at the iconic Portage and Main intersection. Supporters gathered to celebrate with the families. In his verdict, Joyal thanked the families and supporters for standing by all 4 women over the past 2 years and for also attending the trial every day. Outside the courthouse, the Crown did the same.
They had every reason not to trust this system, and yet they consistently showed us their grace and courage. And to the family of Mashkode, Bijiki, Ekwe, Iban, you are not forgotten, and neither is your daughter.
Moving forward, the focus now turns to searching the Prairie Green landfill, where it is believed the remains of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron are.
Yeah. So now the next step is bring my girl home. Bring her home. That's all I need. Even just a piece of her would be good.
The maximum sentence Skibicki can receive is an automatic life sentence with no parole for 25 years. While spirits are high today, some can't help but to think.
It will still never be enough because of what he still did to those to our women.
Judge Joyal is expected to give his full 150-page statement next week. Now, the sentencing date isn't going to happen until sometime this fall. That's because earlier the Crown had asked for a later date so that family members and community members alike could have some time to do their impact statements. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, TR. Reaction of the Skibicki verdict came swift from Montreal, where the family of Morgan Harris are this week. It was a tough decision for the family to choose to be there and not back in Winnipeg for the verdict, but they did so to ensure the AFN's resolution was passed to support an independent inquiry into the deaths of the 4 Indigenous women Skibicki killed. Creason Ashkate brings us an update from the family, Manitoba Chiefs, and the AFN.
Today we found out the man who took my mom's life and the 3 other women's was found guilty on all 4 counts of first-degree murder and criminally responsible, so he knew exactly what he was doing at the time that he committed those acts.
Strong words from the daughter of Morgan Harris, who can now freely say Jeremy Skibicki killed her mother.
And he does not have a mental illness. He preyed on these women at shelters. He took them home and he took their life and then disposed of them in a landfill. That's what happened here.
All 3 of Morgan Harris's daughters were in attendance, along with Morgan's cousin, the Assembly of First Nations, and Manitoba Chiefs.
We're elated to hear that that monster will never step foot out of a prison again. And I hope that when he does leave, he's going out in a body bag.
Cambria Harris says Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew called her just before the press conference while he was in ceremony and promised the search at the Prairie Green landfill in Winnipeg will begin very soon.
I told him that I was very, very grateful for Judge Doyle and our Crown attorneys who have been there every step of the way, and I appreciated that they're taking missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls 2S+ more seriously in that courtroom. There was an acknowledgement. We were finally heard in that courtroom today. They treated them as human beings in that courtroom, and they've treated us as human beings every step of the way when the police and the previous government could not.
According to the Harris family, the landfill search for Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, Rebecca Contois, and Buffalo Woman will begin around the beginning of August, and the search could take less than a year. This week, the Assembly of First Nations also passed a draft resolution to call for an independent inquiry into the deaths of the 4 women.
We urge the Honourable Anita Neville, the Lieutenant Governor of Manitoba, to establish a commission led by First Nations commissioners to ensure a thorough and respectful investigation. This inquiry must address the shortcomings in the search efforts, evidence management, and the responsiveness of the Winnipeg Police Service and the province of Manitoba.
Pine Creek First Nation Chief Derek Niepenak says today's guilty verdict sets an important precedent for anyone else preying on Indigenous women.
A light will shine on you, and the criminal justice system will do its work, will do its job. This is an important milestone for us to observe because you can't get away with it anymore.
So if it weren't for the support of the community and all of the chiefs standing behind us, I don't know how my family and I could have pushed this far.
The Harris family says they will now go back home to Winnipeg to see the completion of their new healing lodge at the Prairie Green landfill in Winnipeg in support of the 4 families. They said their work does not end here. Creason Achkate, APTN National News, Montreal.
Thanks, Creason. If you're affected by these stories, supports are available 24/7 through the MMIWG support line. That number is 1-844-413-6649. Well, our Truth in Politics panel is here for more on today's verdict. Jennifer Leywitz is a policy analyst based in Saskatchewan. Negon Sinclair is a columnist with the Winnipeg Free Press. Jennifer, Negon, thanks for being with us. Jennifer, we'll start with you and your reaction to this verdict.
I want to say that I'm surprised, but I'm not. I'm glad to see that he is guilty and will be receiving a life sentence. I think that was absolutely necessary. Just a little bit troubled to read that there was evidence introduced from testimony from a psychiatrist from like the UK to speak on behalf of his mental health. So I think that really draws into question the integrity of how we weight evidence and testimony from so-called experts, and I'm really glad that the court did take that into consideration, that it didn't really hold much weight.
Negon, you and I were talking about that before. You were in the courthouse. Can you kind of set the scene for us and give us your take on the reaction to the guilty verdict?
It's a complicated decision for a fairly simple outcome. It's almost impossible to imagine any other verdict from this trial. However, it is the justice system, it is Canada, which at many times never fails to disappoint. And in this case, though, the justice system did get it right. The Crown prosecutors were very congratulatory of the Winnipeg police and their conduct of the interview of Skibicki, where he admitted to the murder of those 4 women. And so that's an interesting kind of trend within the case, because the Winnipeg police have been heavily criticized by the families of not acting quick enough. But this complicated decision kind of took about an hour plus, where the courtroom was generally in a position of trying to hear what Justice Joyal was saying about why he said the not criminally responsible defense was inappropriate and was completely unacceptable for the reasons that Jennifer pointed out. The psychiatrist used by the defense was inexperienced and incapable of handling a comment around or a diagnosis of not criminally responsible. And the reality is that the macabre details that came out within the decision was stomach turning. And it was also very emotional, I think, for the families who burst into applause when finally, after about an hour, the verdict for all 4 murder charges was read out as guilty.
Jennifer, talking about criticism for police, a resolution was passed by chiefs and proxies at the AFN General Assembly calling for an independent inquiry into this and the handling of it all by Winnipeg Police and the previous Manitoba government, their failure to start a search. What could be gained, do you think, from the inquiry?
I think a lot of feedback that needs to be implemented at all different levels of government, and especially in our public-facing services like the police. The fact that we had a previous government that went into an election campaigning on the concept of not searching the landfills spoke volumes. But it also is incredibly scary because that really goes back to the conversation around stigmatization and the devaluing of human life, which is an issue that, I like to speak frequently about on my platforms. Is why are we getting to the point where we are so comfortable devaluing human life to, take an issue that is complex like searching the landfill, but then also know that you're going to somehow gain votes for your base by talking about how you won't search the landfill because they knew that would make people in their party happy. And that's concerning. And so I think what this report is really highlighting the various different levels of government, the responsibility of the police, and how we are framing the messaging and the tone around how we value life, especially Indigenous women.
Niigaan, still sentencing to happen, the actual search of the landfill. I understand the lodge will be placed on site near the landfill next week. What happens next? We're far from over here.
There'll be days of victim statements, impacted family members who will be reading out statements to the court to put on the record the ways that this trial has impacted them. We'll also be hearing about there's no option for sentencing, but that the options for their what dates will be discussed and to when the sentencing will take place. All of that has yet to be determined for the weeks ahead. But generally, I think what's going to be seen is a real big focus. As every family member came out to speak to the media, and there was dozens of media. In fact, we ran out of seats in the courtroom for the number of media, all the way to the BBC, down to the United States. I mean, there are many thousands of eyes of media watching this trial today. There's a real intention by the family members to push the dialogue towards the searching the landfill issue. There's a round dance happening in downtown Winnipeg just in a few minutes that will then occupy the family's attention, the supporters' attention, to try to bring Winnipeggers to the idea that this issue is not over with.
Niigaan and Jennifer, we'll have to leave it there. Appreciate you both being here.
Thanks.
The AFN AGA came to a close today with Pierre Poilievre making his first appearance since becoming leader. We'll tell you how that went after the break. Welcome back. For the first time since becoming Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre attended this year's Assembly of First Nations AGA, now wrapped up in Montreal. However, he was met with a mixed reception by chiefs at the Assembly. Chris Nachkate brings us an update.
Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre was told to educate himself by the chiefs this morning for not mentioning his action plan for MMIWG and not recognizing residential school survivors during his morning keynote address to the chiefs. Poilievre was also questioned why he did not mention a plan to address climate change and was told not to commercialize the lands and resources for infrastructure and jobs. Several leaders and veterans also chose to stand and show Poilievre their backs during his speech. If he is to become the next Prime Minister, Poilievre talked about Conservative values being the same as Indigenous values. He promised to cut the bureaucratic red tape to streamline much-needed infrastructure projects in First Nations. He wants to make sure the revenue made from the resources will go directly towards First Nations first and help build more housing and bring down the cost of food in the North, among many other promises.
This is my first meeting with you in person, but I hope it will be the first of many. I want the next generation of Canada and the next government that I hope to have the privilege to lead to build a genuine partnership with First Nations, a nation-to-nation relationship based on the recognition of rights and mutual respect.
His speech ended with some chiefs shouting at Poilievre that if he is to become Prime Minister, he needs to answer more questions. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was up next and used much of his time to discredit everything Poilievre said and advised the chiefs not to trust him. He then noted a list of accomplishments the NDP has helped with for Indigenous people. He also offered to stay longer for more questions from the chiefs, which was met with cheers and applause. Here is what one of the AFN participants had to say who gave Poilievre his back, alongside a First Nation veteran, along with comments from Jagmeet Singh on Poilievre.
I saw the veteran standing with his back to Pierre Poilievre. That's when I could feel my Two-Spirit ancestors were like, you got to do something as well, because Pierre Poilievre has publicly attacked our Two-Spirit community and members of our Two-Spirit community, and he hides behind parental rights. So I talked to members of my council, I talked to the Women's Council who were sitting behind me, and my aunties were like, go stand beside him.
Clearly he's not someone that's going to stand on the side of Indigenous people. And I feel like it was obvious in the room. The chiefs and the leadership knew that as well. They knew that the Conservatives, specifically Pierre Poilievre, did not actually come with a real message that connected with what they're going through. It's clear who he is. He's shown who he is to Indigenous people multiple times.
To other news now, the Skibicki First Nation was back at the federal court in Ottawa. It's day 2 for the judicial review of the decision to greenlight the Chalk River nuclear waste disposal site. Councillor Justin Roy addressed media outside the federal court building. He said he's confident there will be a positive outcome from this case, although a decision isn't expected for 4 to 6 months. The Skibicki First Nation is opposed to a low-level radioactive waste disposal site that the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission approved in January. It's planned to be built in Chalk River, Ontario, a kilometre from the Ottawa River. Roy said although his community is 4 hours north of the site, they are stewards of the territory.
In terms of our community, a reserve, we were told that you must build your community here in 1972. That's where our community and a lot of our homes are, but that doesn't encompass our whole unceded territory. And again, our ancestors would probably roll over in their graves if they were to hear that we would just allow a nuclear waste dump that's going to hold 1 million cubic meters of waste adjacent to the Ottawa River and remain there for time immemorial.
We need to step aside for one last quick break, but stick around. We're headed back to Bannock Festival after the break. Welcome back. Time for our photo of the day. This summer road trip from Alberta down to the Oregon coast, a trip I would love to make. Thanks to Korean Melanchuk, who shared this great picture. Share your summer fun by emailing your pictures to share@aptn.ca to be featured on APTN National News. Now let's take a look at Friday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 28 and showers in Halifax, 27 with rain in Fredericton, 15 in Kuujjuaq, rain in Nain and a high of 20. 27 in Montreal with showers, 29 in Val-d'Or. Rain and 29 for Sault Ste. Marie, 27 with showers in North Bay. 29 and rain in Thunder Bay, showers and 30 in Sioux Lookout. 23 in God's Lake, 27 for Norway House. 32 in Winnipeg, showers and 32 for Dauphin. 29 with rain in Regina, cloudy and 26 in North Battleford. 26 with rain in Meadow Lake and La Ronge. In northern Alberta, showers and 23 in High Level, sun's out and 25 for Peace River. 26 under the sun in Edmonton, 27 in Lethbridge. 23 in Vancouver and Victoria, 35 with rain in Kamloops. 24 in Smithers and Prince George. 22 and rain in Old Crow, cloudy and 18 for Whitehorse. Cloudy and 20 in Yellowknife, showers and 22 in Norman Wells. Sun's out and 11 in Sax Harbor, 22 under the sun in Pawlatuck. 16 and sunny for Chesterfield and Whale Cove, 13 in Arviette, 4 in Resolute, 12 in Joe Haven. All week long, we've shown you stories from the Bannock Festival in St. Teresa Point, Anishinaabe Nation. Tonight, we show you the excitement from the youth as they get to meet and greet Mariana's Trench before they turn up the heat. On the concert beat, here's T.R. Wheatley.
This moment scratched off the bucket list. After opening up for their pop rock idols, Baron May and his band met them. Where did all the good go? Mariana's Trench were brought to St. Teresa and Anishinaabe Nation to perform a 2-hour concert for the youth during the 42nd annual Bannock Festival. During sound practice earlier in the day, some of them got VIP backstage access to meet the band. The community had contests to give everyone a fair chance at winning a shot for this.
Hi there. Hi, how's it going? How's it going? Hi.
Kyla Rose McDougall was one of the lucky winners.
They came here to see you. Yes. Very, very exciting. I never imagined them coming here.
When you're an old grandma, you could be telling your grandchildren, Mariana's Trench came to St. Teresa to see me.
Yes. Yes. I gotta go over there.
I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
I am Matthew.
And I am Ian.
We're feeling great. Everyone's been very welcoming. I've eaten more Bannock today than I have in 10 years. It's been great. It's been great.
Would you say they make the best Bannock around here?
It's the best I've had. When we got there, our dressing room was actually warm still. That's about as fresh as it gets.
This concert, Deep in the Woods, was meant to uplift spirits here after a hard couple of years, says the community's junior chief.
Keep youth motivated or keep youth, engaged out of negative stuff, like even their mental stuff, their mental health. That's pretty much my goal, just to keep youth active and engaged.
But the youth here weren't the only excited ones. Check out my camera guy, Zach Bowser. Pulling a show off like this is not easy, even in a major city. But for 10 months of the year, the only way into St. Teresa Point is to fly. Greg Watson works with Thrill Star Entertainment. He helped get these rock stars to St. Teresa this week.
In the wintertime, there's a winter road that we can use to bring in all the equipment, the barrier, the blow-through barrier that we needed for the stage. But it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because the community came together and built this fantastic stage.
I truly hope this will not be the last time that we're here. Such a beautiful place. Also, this is true. This is the only gig we've ever had where we had to take a barge to get to it. Jesus Christ.
I mean, that's the moment they were all waiting for. This is it. This is it. PR Wheatley, APTN National News, St. Teresa's Point.
And we will have more from St. Teresa Point tomorrow. Great work up there by TR and our summer student Zach Bowser, who's clearly got some moves. Still a little bummed out. They went all that way to Bannock Festival, returned with nothing here for us, the news team, no Bannock. But great to see the stories. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday, and what a day it's been. For more on the guilty verdict for a Winnipeg serial killer or the AFN's AGA or any other story, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow.